At that time, doctors smoked and blew it right up the patient's butt. In the old times, they believed that urine has antibodies that can fight cancers. During lobotomy, they made 2 holes in the skull and put 2 sticks inside, and then they started hammering it. Let's talk about 6 very strange medical treatments that have been used in the past or even nowadays. Hello my friend, welcome back to Chatterdocs. I'm Dr. Tor and I'm an internal medicine physician. In this channel, I talk about a lot of things in medicine and health, and I believe that learning about health and medicine does not have to be boring. So if you have been here before, welcome back. And if you're new, please consider subscribing and turning on the notifications so you will never miss anything. Number 1, tobacco smoke enemas. Yes, you heard it right. At that time, doctors smoked and blew it right up the patient's butt to treat conditions like headache, fever, typhoid fever, cholera, cold symptoms, and a lot of other conditions. Most importantly, they used it in CPR or resuscitation of a patient who had a lung or heart arrest. They actually used nicotine as a stimulant, and they believed that it would stimulate the adrenals to make more adrenaline that will revive the patient. Well, nowadays we use epinephrine, but apparently at that time their CPR kits had rubber tubes and devices for nicotine enemas. Can you imagine the doctor or the poor medic has to sit there and start smoking and then blow it up the patient's butt? In the early 18th century, they figured that not only it's not helpful, but also it has a lot of harm for the medics or doctors who are doing the smoking to help a patient. Interestingly enough, in 19th century, smoking cigarettes was recommended to treat some conditions, including asthma. I don't know if it was a marketing trick, but nowadays we all know that if there's one thing that asthma patients should avoid, it's smoking cigarettes. Number 2, urine therapy. Have you seen the movie World of Water, where the whole planet is submerged under the water, and there's this guy who lives on a boat, and out of necessity he has to refine his urine and drink it as water. Throughout the history and even today, people use urine for so many different treatment purposes. In the old times, they believed that urine has antibodies that can fight cancers, AIDS, etc. In fact, in Roman times, urine was such a valuable commodity, and some people would collect it from public urinals, and they had to actually pay taxes from the profits. They used it on the skin to treat acne, they would gargle it to treat strep throat, and even funniest of all, they would use it as a tooth whitener. Apparently, if the urine sits, the urea will convert to ammonia, which has antibacterial and bleaching effects. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't take your bad breath away. Even nowadays, some people use it to treat the jellyfish sting. Anyways, although that still some people believe in drinking their own piss, there's no studies proving its benefits. In the old Chinese medicine, they figured that they can use a healthy person's stool to treat some types of diarrhea. In fact, in the 16th century, a Chinese doctor used a yellow soup, which contained the stool of a healthy person, to treat a severe diarrhea. And it worked. Well, I don't know how they came up with the idea, and I don't know how the patient agreed to drink that soup, but it worked. You know what? I'm not gonna drink soup anymore.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's interesting to know that although this treatment seems very crazy and bizarre, we are still doing it, and it's approved as a way of treating some sort of gut infections. There are useful and good bacteria living in your guts. If something happens that kills these good bacteria, like taking a lot of antibiotics, then it can give opportunity to the harmful bacteria to grow and make you sick, because they're not contained anymore. One of these bacteria is called Clostridium difficile, or for short C. diff. C. diff overgrowth can cause a severe infection, causing fever, abdominal pain, and severe diarrhea. It's normally treated with certain antibiotics, but one way of treating it is fecal transplant. Now don't worry, they won't make you drink a yellow soup or scoop out of someone's poop. They will process the stool of a healthy person, preferably a relative. I don't want to take my relative's poop. I would rather take some stranger's shit, you know? They process it and then they administer it as a capsule or as a liquid through nasal tubes that goes into your stomach or through rectal enemas from down below.
Denied.
Anyways, all of it is disgusting, but it has proven to be beneficial. This can help restore your useful gut bacterial flora and then contain the harmful bacteria and treat your diarrhea. Number 4, heroin. Heroin! Not very long ago, in the early 1900s, the famous German pharmaceutical company Bayer made a cough syrup with active ingredient of heroin, and it was marketed as a substitute for morphine as it is more potent but non-addictive. Funnily, it was sold as an over-the-counter medicine, so you wouldn't even need prescription for that. Good old times, man, good old times. Shortly thereafter, they realized that yes, it is more potent, but it's much more addictive than morphine as well. Well, actually not very shortly, because it was sold freely to people between 1898 and 1910 for 12 years. And finally, FDA banned this drug in 1924. It's interesting to know that some cough suppressant medication, even nowadays, have some opioid substances like codeine. But they're not over the counter, and also there's very controversial evidence behind their benefit of suppressing cough. Number 5, lobotomy. This one is just barbaric and so wrong. It's hurtful even talking about it. Not only because it's gruesome, but also because it was done until very recently. The word lobotomy in Greek means slicing or cutting the lobe. And basically they intended to cut the frontal lobe of the patient's brain to treat psychiatric conditions like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, depression, and so forth. The idea was to cut and destroy the pathways that control the abnormal behavior of the patient to treat that condition. So basically during lobotomy they made 2 holes in the skull and put 2 sticks inside and shove them inside until it reaches your brain, and then they started hammering it to destroy the brain basically. I don't know what they were thinking. So the frontal lobe of the brain is mainly responsible for the behavior, and a lot of times because these surgeries were not precise, they would just destroy so many parts of the brain, the person would become oftentimes mentally retarded, just like an infant, or very withdrawn or mute or not doing anything. It was used in overcrowded mental institutions to treat patients who were agitated or crazy, and then this procedure will put them in a mute state, which was kind of better for them, but it didn't cure the patient at all. And the sad part is that it was done up until 1950s. 70 years ago. John F. Kennedy's sister Rosemary got a lobotomy because their father thought that she's acting weird and her life was never the same. By 1950s, with the advent of the new antipsychotic medication and the fact that they realized the procedure was freaking wrong, they stopped doing it. But even nowadays, there are some surgeries for psychiatric conditions, also known as psychosurgeries. For example, nowadays for some hard to treat obsessive compulsive disorders, neurosurgeons will go in and destroy a small part of the brain called cingulotomy. But today the surgeries are much more precise, and even nowadays they're controversial. Number 6, electrical impotence cures. It looks like in 19th century they just loved to make new devices and weird medical treatments for everything. And a lot of electrical treatments started back then. They believed that with giving the body mild electricity, they could treat so many conditions. They made an electric belt, well, probably not this big, but maybe this big, I don't know. It would give one's penis electrical shock and supposedly treat impotence. Now, I don't know how it worked. I can imagine you want to have sex and you're like, honey, get ready, I'm coming to have fun. Ah shit, my battery just died. Let me just charge my electric ring, whatever the hell it is. Oh my god, oh no, too much electricity. Oh my god, I'm too erect now. It's so painful. Even a lot of modern nerve stimulators are controversial as far as the benefits that they provide, but this one definitely didn't work. Don't electrocute your penis. Just take good old Viagra. Gargled it. Why would you gargle urine? Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you liked it, smash the like button down below. Don't forget to share this with your friends and watch my other videos right here.